And tonight is the night to talk about Neruda, and many of you know some of Neruda. Some of you have heard his love poems or some lines about it. And how did I come to know Neruda was a question asked when I came in. And the reason why I know Neruda is because Neruda instructed every boy in my young adolescent days into how to romance a woman, how to make a girl fall in love with you. And so I heard the lines all the time. I presume in England people know the lines from Shakespeare. And the Dominican Republic, where I was raised with 9 brothers, I knew the lines from Neruda, particularly his first book that he wrote when he was 19 years old. Every boy has romanced his wife or lover or significant other, or whatever the names are, with the lines of Neruda. But I didn't know the poet as he matured, and he did mature like a good wine, and he transferred his passion and his love that he had for women to the land and to the people of Latin America, I would say. In order for you to know a little bit about Neruda, and you will know some facts, some of you, when you met me, told me that you were in Chile. Chile is this beautiful country, very narrow, sort of little slope, goes down, and I was living in Peru, and then I went to Chile. Chile is a European influenced country. The buildings, everything is different, dramatically different from Peru, and they do have a strong rivalry, the Peruvians and the Chileans. But there's something very wonderful about the spirit of Chileans. Sometimes it reminded me of the people from the south of Spain. It's a lively, and they even pronounce their language that way. So this man comes from the south of Peru. Okay, so let's see. So he was born in 1904 in a very small town in the southern part of Peru. And he was baptized Neftali Ricardo Reyes. It's far from Pablo Neruda as imaginable, but he gave himself the name of Pablo Neruda. And Neruda is not a Spanish name, last name at all. He chose Neruda as a surname out of admiration for an obscure, I tried to find any poetry from this poet, Czech poet, Jan Neruda. I couldn't find it. But he must have found some poetry in one of those old libraries in his town, those abandoned libraries where gathered dust, and he found this poet, and he decided he wanted to be called Pablo Neruda. Little did he know that this name was going to be such an incredible, famous name. So obviously, from a very young age, he's interested in poetry. At age 5, Neruda's father came from the working class or poor class. The father was a railroad worker, and he was killed when he fell from his train, leaving the whole family in utter poverty. At age 16, Neruda, already writing poetry, received a scholarship to study high school in Santiago, Chile. To leave the little town and go to the capital, that's a major event in the life of anyone in Latin America. And he met Gabriela Mistral, and many of you may not know who Gabriela Mistral is. This was an incredible poet, who, Latin America, Chile is the country in Latin America who has, for us is nothing but 2 Nobel Prize in literature. Gabriela Mistral was the first person in Latin America to win the Nobel Prize in literature. And she was a teacher, and she encouraged Neruda to be a poet. And at age 19, he published this book that everybody, there's no boy, there's no young man, probably not all men in Latin America that does not know 20 poems of love and 1 ode of desperation. There he is when he was handsome. And at that age, at 19, poems were sprouting all over his body, just like his passion for women. He was like a lover boy. Now, this poem, I asked somebody to make a copy of this poem, and read it in English, and told me that he was very annoyed because nobody, what is this? I crave your mouth. And I had to explain to him the translations, you get confused with translations a great deal. And that when I read it, I understood more like, I long for your mouth. We're going to play.
You want to read it in Spanish first?
Let me see if I can read it in Spanish for you. See if I make these lights. Well, yeah, and actually it's like I'm hungry for your mouth. Tengo hambre de tu boca, de tu voz, de tu pelo, y por las calles voy sin nutrirme, callado. No me sostiene el pan, el alba me desquicia, busco el sonido líquido de tus pies en el día. Estoy hambriento de tu risa resbalada, de tus manos color de furioso granero. Tengo hambre de la pálida piedra de tus uñas. Quiero comer tu piel como una intacta almendra. Quiero comer el rayo quemado en tu hermosura, la nariz soberana del arrogante rostro. Quiero comer la sombra fugaz de tus pestañas. Y hambriento vengo y voy, olfateando el crepúsculo, buscándote, buscando tu corazón caliente como un punto en la soledad de Quitratue. So the man is an adolescent full of passion, and we're going to hear it in English.
I crave your mouth, your voice, your hair, silent and starving. I prowl through the streets. Bread does not nourish me. Dawn distrusts me. All day I hunt for the liquid measure of your steps. I hunger for your sleek laugh, your hands the color of a savage harvest. Hunger for the pale stones of your fingernails. I want to eat your skin like a whole almond. I want to eat the sunbeam flaring in your lovely body, the sovereign nose of your arrogant face. I want to eat the fleeting shade of your lashes. And I pace around hungry, sniffing the twilight, hunting for your hot heart, like a puma in the barrens of Quitratue.
Whose voice is that? I mean, given the animation, it's young contemporary person voice. And that's South Park.
So I can write the saddest poems of all tonight. I loved her, sometimes she loved me too. This is the poem that my brothers knew. And I tried to teach it in the high school where I taught. I was teaching the AP literature. I think this poem was included. And I tried to teach it to my American adolescent boys who had an enormous problem with this poem. They could not understand that they were going to write in Boca Raton, next to the ocean, the saddest poems of the night. They were in love, they just couldn't understand this. I loved her, and sometimes she loved me too. Like, they couldn't care less. I tried to say the importance of this poem because even though it sounds trivial, there's always more meaning to Neruda. Neruda is a tricky poet. He makes believe that he's writing something very simple, but in truth, there's a lot of substance to his lines. So let's see if we hear it here in Spanish, in English, I think. I was going to read it in Spanish, but...
Tonight I can write the saddest lines, by Pablo Neruda, translated by W.S. Lewin. Tonight I can write the saddest lines. Write, for example, the night is starry and the stars are blue and shiver in the distance. The night wind revolves in the sky and sings. Tonight I can write the saddest lines. I loved her, and sometimes she loved me too. Through nights like this one, I held her in my arms. I kissed her again and again, under the endless sky. She loved me. Sometimes I loved her too. How could one not have loved her great still eyes? Tonight I can write the saddest lines. To think that I do not have her. To feel that I have lost her. To hear the immense night, still more immense without her. And the verse falls to the soul, like dew to the pasture. Why does it matter that my love could not keep her? The night is starry, and she is not with me. This is all. In the distance, someone is singing. In the distance. My soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. My sight tries to find her, as though to bring her closer. My heart looks for her, and she is not with me. The same night, whitening the same trees. We, of that time, are no longer the same. I no longer love her, that's certain, but how I loved her. My voice tries to find the wind, to touch her hearing. Another's, she will be another's, as she was before my kisses. Her voice, her bright body, her infinite eyes. I no longer love her, that's certain, but maybe I love her. Love is so short, forgetting is so long. Because through nights like this one, I held her in my arms. My soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. Though this be the last pain that she makes me suffer, and these the last verses that I write for her.
So imagine trying to get an essay out of life is short and forgetting is too long. They just really felt my American adolescents of the 21st century had enormous problems with that line. And somehow I knew that they needed to write essays that they would extract from this poem, since it was included in this AP course. But they would come to me with almost with tears in their eyes. What the hell is this? And all this joy. And they really. And I would explain it also, or like there's a line about the dew. That was another one that was about sun. Take this line and write me an essay. And they would have enormous problems with it. So it tells you about what we call daily cultural differences. So Neruda describes himself this way: in my daily life, I'm a tranquil man, the enemy of laws, is true. This man was, I think, an innate anarchist, leaders and established institutions. I find the middle class odious, and I like the lives of people who are restless and unsatisfied, whether they're artists or criminals.
That would be a great statement for a political candidate for
And that he was not. He was hated by the politicians of every his country and so on. So anyway, so this poem is considered it's the only poem that he wrote with a title in English, which there's no explanation as to why he chose English to title this poem. But some people describe this as a surrealist poem. He was really interested in surrealism at the time. I think this was written in 1935. He's also in Spain. I think he's representing his country, but Spain is in a civil war. He's a very, very, very good friend of Lorca. They're very, very good friends. And he is, during the Civil War, he has studied surrealism, and this poem is a fascinating poem. It appears to be that it's somebody walking around, as he gives the title, and ambling around, but it's a poem full of force about the things he sees, and there's some even lines that are funny. So, yeah. And you have it in your book.
It so happens that I'm sick of being a man, and it happens that I walk into tailor shops and movie houses, dried up, waterproof, like a swan made of felt, steering my way in a water of wounds and ashes. The smell of barbershops make me break into hoarse sobs. The only thing I want is to lie still like stones or wool. The only thing I want is to see no more stores, no gardens, no more goods, no spectacles, no elevators. It so happens that I am sick of my feet and my nails, and my hair and my shadow. It so happens I am sick of being a man. Still, it would be marvelous to terrify a law clerk with a cut lily, or kill a nun with a blow on the ear. It would be great to go through the streets with a green knife, letting out yells until I died of the cold. I don't want to go on being a root in the dark, insecure, stretched out, shivering with sleep, going on down into the moist guts of the earth, taking in and thinking, eating every day. I don't want so much misery. I don't want to go on as a root in a tomb, alone under the ground, a warehouse of corpses, half frozen, dying of grief. That's why Monday, when it sees me coming with my convict face, blazes up like gasoline, and it howls on its way like a wounded wheel, and leaves track full of warm blood leading towards the night. And it pushes me into certain corners, into some moist houses, into hospitals where the bones fly out the window, into shoe shops that smell like vinegar, and certain streets hideous as cracks in the skin. There are sulfur-colored birds and hideous intestines hanging over the doors of houses that I hate. And there are false teeth forgotten in a coffee pot. There are mirrors that ought to have wept from shame and terror. There are umbrellas everywhere, and venoms, and umbilical cords. I stroll along serenely with my eyes, my shoes, my rage, forgetting everything. I walk by, going through office buildings and orthopedic shops, and courtyards with washings hanging from the line, underwear, towels, and shirts, from which slow, dirty tears are falling.
So this is a dark poem. And in the midst of all the horrors around it. And it's a poem that has a lot of appeals to the senses. I don't want so much misery, and obviously it's Neruda speaking. He personalizes, he said, that's why one day when he sees me coming with my convict face, blazes up like gasoline, and it howls on the way like a wounded wheel, and leaves tracks full of warm blood leading towards the night. The sulfur-colored birds, and he gives you lots of images. And in a funny way, not a funny way, but he appeals to your senses as you read this poem. It's a dark poem, even though he titled it Walking Around, which you think is going to be a casual kind of experience.
Did he speak English?
Pardon me?
Did he speak English? Was he fluent in English?
No, never spoke English, but there's a big discussion about why does he title this in English, Walking Around. He loves Whitman, and he's very influenced by Whitman, but I don't know why. I even tried to Google it myself. I never found out why he titled this Walking Around.
Do you know if he wrote the...
And he was in Spain at this time, so it's interesting, unless he met people from England who were, in that Civil War. That's a possibility. In Latin American, poets are encouraged to represent their country. By the way, they're a pain in the neck to their own government. So immediately they assign them to be ambassadors. And he was a real pain in the neck to the government of Chile. So he was assigned, they assigned him to consular post. At age 23, Chile recognized him as a poet, and the Chilean government gave him a post in the consular service in the Far East. That means he was really giving them a great deal of difficulty. During the next 5 years, he lived in turning Burma, Thailand, China, Japan, and India. And he himself describes these years of profound loneliness and isolation. If some of you want to research, there's a woman that I think he meets in Burma, and there's always women in his life, and I think it's Josie. And it's a woman that he's involved in an incredible, difficult, but passionate relationship, and he writes a great deal about her. I couldn't find a poem, but if some of you can do, this is really nearly impossible for in the time we have to really cover Neruda, so I just want you to apologize in advance. You have a task to go find out who Josie was. So I have always wanted the hands of people to be seen in poetry. He wrote in 1966. Now he's an old man. Then he added, I've always preferred poetry where the fingerprints show, a poetry of loam where water can sing, a poetry of bread where everyone may eat. Past the stage of those early poems, of those powerful, sensuous poem, like great for your mouth kind of poems, his connection to the masses is clear with his groundbreaking book, Residence on Earth, which persisted throughout his life. He really now wrote about the people and his passion for people and justice. In fact, it became more intense with time, turning him into a biblical prophet of sorts, the voice of the voiceless, particularly in Latin America. It also made him a target of attacks. Neruda certainly knew how to make waves. So much so that when the Swedish Academy granted him the Nobel Prize of Literature in 1971, the official announcement was bellicose in tone. It read, this year's award has been given to a contentious author who is not only debated, but for many is also debatable. A bit of a put down. This debate about Neruda has been going on for 40 years, which demonstrates that his contribution is unquestionable. For example, when I had to teach Neruda in the stuff given to me, I was told that I had to mention that he was what they called in poetry a compromise poet. And I had a great deal of problems saying, like, you know, and what is a compromise poet? And a compromise poet was that he had an ideology. He believed he was a communist and was a member of the Communist Party, and this was his ideology. And the man is incredibly complex. Winter Garden, he was also an incredibly prolific poet. He wrote poetry all the time. So when he died, on his desk, there were 2 books completed, left, which were published posthumously. One of them is Winter Garden. There's a poem that my friend Danny is going to read from there. Does he read it now? Okay. Winter Garden, you can get it here.
All right, I have never seen this poem before.
Take it.
We do some. Winter Garden.
Could you stand up so we can see?
Winter Garden. Winter arrives, shining dictation. The wet leaves give me dressed in silence and yellow. I am a book of snow, a spacious hand, an open meadow, a circle that waits. I belong to the earth and its winter. Earth's rumour grew in the leaves. Soon the wheat flared up, punctuated by red flowers like burns. Then autumn arrived to set down the wine's scripture. Everything passed. The goblet of summer was a fleeting sky. The navigating cloud burned out. I stood on the balcony, dark with morning, like yesterday with the ivies of my childhood, hoping the earth would spread its wings in my uninhabited love. I knew the rose would fall, and the pit of the passing peach would sleep and germinate once more, and I got drunk on the air until the whole sea became the night and the red sky turned to ash. Now the earth lives, numbing its oldest questions, the skin of its silence stretched out. Once more, I am the silent one, who came out of the distance, wrapped in cold rain and bells. I owe to earth's pure death the will to sprout.
Ruth, may I ask you a question? Yes. That poem sounded so much like Dylan Thomas, or Dylan Thomas sounded so much like. Was there a recognized connection?
I don't know, because there was these 2 books finished on his desk, which had been published, as I said, posthumously, but
So Winter Garden was published posthumously?
yeah, after he died.
I see.
After 73.
What?
Oh, okay. So they didn't.
No, and I think he died in 1970.
And did he know he was dying?
Sorry?
Did he know he was dying when he wrote?
Yes. Yes. My dog has died. I think I'm going to read to you in Spanish, and then yeah. You see it here, and this poem made me cry when I read it. I won't do it again. It won't happen now. But so, mi perro ha muerto. Lo enterré en el jardín junto a una vieja máquina olvidada. Allí, no más abajo ni más arriba, se juntará conmigo alguna vez. Ahora él ya se fue con su pelaje, su mala educación, su nariz iria Y yo, materialista que no cree en el celeste cielo prometido para ningún humano, para este perro o para todo perro creo en el cielo. Sí, creo en un cielo donde yo no entraré, pero él me espera, ondulando su cola de abanico para que yo al llegar tenga amistades. Ay, no diré la tristeza en la tierra de no tenerlo más por compañero, que para mí jamás fue un servidor. Tuvo hacia mí la amistad de un erizo que conservaba su soberanía, la amistad de una estrella independiente, sin más intimidad que la precisa, sin exageraciones. No se trepaba sobre mi vestuario, llenándome de pelos o de sarna. No se frotaba contra mi rodilla como otros perros obsesos sexuales. No, mi perro me miraba dándome la atención que necesito, la atención necesaria para hacer comprender a un vanidoso que siendo perro él, con esos ojos más puros que los míos, perdía el tiempo, pero me miraba con la mirada que me reservó toda su dulce, su pelusa vida, su silenciosa vida cerca de mí, sin molestarme nunca y sin pedirme nada. Ay, cuántas veces quise tener cola, andando junto a él por las orillas del mar, con el invierno de Isla Negra, en la gran soledad, arriba el aire, traspasado de pájaros glaciales, y mi perro brincando, hirsuto, lleno de voltaje marino en movimiento, mi perro vagabundo y olfatorio, enarbolando su cola dorada, frente a frente al océano su espuma, alegre, 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 como los perros saben ser felices, sin nada más, con el absolutismo de la naturaleza descarada. No hay adiós a mi perro que se ha muerto, y no hay ni hubo mentiras entre nosotros. Ya se fue y lo enterré, y eso era todo. So that's from another collection of books. Collection
My
of
dog
books.
is dying. I buried him in the garden, next to a rusty old machine. Someday I'll join him right there. But now he's gone, with his shabby coat, his bad manners and his cold nose. And I, the materialist, who never believed in any promised heaven in the sky for any human being, I believe in a heaven I'll never enter. Yes, I believe in a heaven for all doctor, where my dog waits for my arrival, waving his fan-like tail in friendship. I'll not speak of sadness here on earth, of having lost a companion who was never silver. His friendship, for me, like that of a porcupine holding its authority, was the friendship of a star, aloof, with no more intimacy than was called for, no exaggerations. He never climbed all over my clothes, filling me full of his hair or his march. He never rubbed up against my knee like other dogs obsessed with sex. No, my dog used to gaze at me, paying me the attention I need, the attention required to make a vain person like me understand that being a dog, he was wasting time. But with those eyes so much purer than mine, he'd keep on gazing at me with a look that reserved for me alone all his sweet and shaggy life, always near me, never troubling me, and asking nothing. How many times have I envied his tail as he walked together on the shores of the sea in the lonely winter of Isla Negra, when the wintering birds filled the sky. My hairy dog was jumping about full of the voltage of the sea's movement. My wandering dog, sniffing away with his golden tail held high, face to face with the ocean's joyful as only dogs know how to be happy with only the autonomy of their shameless spirit. There are no goodbyes for my dog who has died. We don't now and never did lie to each other. So, now he's gone, and I buried him. And that's all there is to it.
So the man was incredibly prolific, wrote more than 40 books and thousands of poems. When he died in 1973, there were 2 completed books on his desk. It's good to know, it's important for you to know that this was a man full of contradictions. He disliked Lenin, but he admired Stalin. And he was, even though when everybody had exposed Stalin was a murderer, he took a long time to acknowledge that. He disliked Mao, but he appreciated Fidel Castro until he went to the PEN conference and Neruda gave a speech denouncing Castro, but particularly imprisoning poets, writers, and gays. But it always takes him a long time to come to these realizations. Neruda hated the government of the United States, United Fruit, Standard Oil, the Vietnam War, but declared he loved and was inspired by Walt Whitman and the people of the United States. In his poem, I Wish That Woodcutter Would Wake Up, he said, "What we love is your peace, not your mask. Your warrior's face is not handsome." Yet I have problems with that line because our great country, has been at war forever. And he says that I love I love your peace. Despite his contradictions, Neruda was vulnerable, sentimental, antagonistic, mellifluous, right or wrong. His poetry is a self-reflective dialogue, and as the world changed, his poems reacted to those external influences which affected him and his poetry. He was the best friend, by the way, of Allende. Allende was really his best friend. If he had a friend, Allende was. Salvador Allende, as you know, was the democratically elected president of Chile, and he declared a socialist agenda, and unfortunately Allende is the one that names Pinochet as the head of all the army and all the forces, the military forces in Chile, and it's Allende who appoints him. And of course, Pinochet organizes the military, and they do what we now know as, fake news. Allende had a list of people to kill, and the United States got all engaged, and they begin to, the United States our country gets truly involved in getting rid of Allende, and the military comes in, does a coup, and begins to kill anybody who's considered the leftist forces. Somebody told me here that they went to Chile and heard the music of the family called Parra, the children of a great writer who was a singer to Violeta Parra, and the child of Violeta Parra was a wonderful singer, and he was taken. Pinochet used to take the leftist people and take them on helicopters and planes and throw them to the sea. Horrendous crimes Pinochet committed. They took over the palace, and they claimed that Allende shot himself instead of being taken. But there's all kinds of contradictory stories about that. But this was Neruda's best friend and Neruda's hope, in a sense, for Chile. And Neruda is sick at that time. He's in his retreat in this place called Isla Negra, this Black Isle, where he is a place he had loved with all his heart. And so despite his contradiction, Neruda was vulnerable, sentimental, antagonistic, mellifluous, right or wrong. His poetry is a self-reflected, I read this already, which affected his poetry. His poetry is always affected by what he sees. And he wrote in Ars Poetica, the truth is that suddenly the wind lashes my chest. The night of infinite substance fallen in my bedroom. The noise of a day that burns with sacrifice asks me mournfully what prophecy there is in me. And there's a swarm of objects that call without being answered, and a ceaseless movement, and a bewildered man. And he died as a bewildered man. He was heartbroken when the news came that Allende had was dead. And he died shortly thereafter. And some of you will find out that, in fact, his recently, I don't know, 3-5 years ago, his chauffeur said that that again, the clinic, they took him to a clinic. He had prostate cancer, and that they took him to a clinic and that injected him. And the chauffeur said he was injected with something, and then he died immediately thereafter. And they exhumed his body. Very much like his best friend Lorca, which is a big controversy in Spain about doing DNA on some bones that they have found about Lorca. But anyway, they exhumed his body, and the doctors or the scientists said, no, he did not die of prostate cancer. But they could not say what was it, but they said he had a very strange infection. Bacteria, which they don't know if it was acquired because he was interred, they don't know, but he did not die of prostate cancer, which is what they say in his death certificate. The family fought very hard for him to be brought back to Isla Negra, to be buried next to the love of his life, Matilde Urrutia, who he wrote all those incredible, passionate poems that you can find in the Captive's verses. So I think this is my last one. No. What? The Enemy. I'll read you a poem called The Enemy, which we have. I'm going to read in Spanish. You follow it if you want to, please, with me. And his enemy, of course, is Allende. My old enemy came to visit today, a man hermetically sealed in his truth, like a castle or strong box, with his own style of breathing and a singular sword play, sedulously struck to draw blood. I saw the years in his face, the eyes of tired water, the lines of his loneliness that have lifted his temples little by little to consummate self-love. We chatted while in broad midday in windy explosions that scattered the sun on all sides and struck at the sky. But the man showed me only his new set of keys, his one way to all doors. Inside him, I think he was silent, indivisibly silent. The flint of his soul stayed impenetrable. I thought of that stingy integrity, hopelessly buried with power to harm only himself. And within me I knew my own crude truth, shamed. Allí estábamos cada uno con su certidumbre afilada y endurecida por el tiempo, como dos ciegos que defienden cada uno su oscuridad. So there's tremendous recognition that he himself was sealed in his own beliefs. Well, I'm going to read to you one more loved one to leave him. Oh, is this the one we read before?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one, the first one? Okay. Well, if you have any questions about Neruda, he was also, obviously, encloses his own ideology. And yes.
Did he have children? Maybe some we don't know.
I don't think he did. He had 3 wives. And he had every Latin American boy as his child. Any of you have seen the movie Il Postino? So I don't know if you've seen, you can see Il Postino, you can see that this is a postman in an island. He's sent to exile a lot. And in this time, it's based on a true story, that he is in this island of Italy. He is on exile, but with Matilde, so he's, and there is a postman, a very poor man, who hardly knows how to write or read, and is mistreated by his father and the town, because everybody there is a fisherman, and he's not a fisherman. And he has his job of delivering the mail to Neruda. And in the story, it's a beautifully done story. The guy bicycles and he pays attention, and he hears the people in the post office speaking about this poet. Remember that, maybe you should know that in Italy at that time, everybody was a communist. The working class was a member of the Communist Party. So that this man was a communist, a member of the Communist Party, was like, he was like a great rock star. So the postman begins to ask him questions and about the poetry, interrupts him, and he's very shy, but he interrupts him. For example, he asks him questions about, what do you mean I am tired of being a man? And Neruda, in a sense, teaches him a little bit about metaphors. So he romances a girl in town that he really likes, and romances her. And the mother says, what is this about? And she tells, the daughter says to the mother, metaphors, metáforas. And the mother runs to the priest and says, she's being romanced, he has seduced her. And the priest says, how? And the mother says, metáforas. So in a sense, Neruda has a lot of children. I don't think he had his own children, that's interesting. That's a good question.
I was reading that, it didn't come up.
They never come up in all their, there's no children. The women are really present in his life. But he has a lot of children. As I said, there's no Latin American boy who doesn't know those lines or some of that poetry. They may not know that the enemy or those dark ones, but they know the love poems. Yes?
If you could write one book of Neruda's poems, which one would that be?
Well, if you love his love poetry, we love the captain's verses for Matilde, who was like this incredible love of his life, and it's a mature love. It's not like, oh, she's mine, but she's not mine, you know, not that one, but it's like this mature, sensuous poetry. And for people of our age to read those poems are really lovely. I mean, they're gorgeous poetry, and they're very sensuous, and they're very, you also kind of get that he's arrogant. He said things like, you know, I will walk, I'll forget you if you, by the moment you forget me, I will forget you. And it's one of the poems that people love. But you know it's not true. One cannot forget that quickly. But, and he says, it's funny, he says that in that first poem. But I would say by the order from the captain's verses. I mean, he has so many poems. This one is one I loved. He has My Dog Has Died, and he has wonderful poetry and beautifully translated. He had very good translators. All the poems, the best poems in America, wanted to translate him. Bly, I mean, very good poets translated him. Merwin really did wonderful jobs in translating him. And a good translation is really important. Yeah. Yes.
Was he in any official capacity during the Civil War?
I think he was a reporter because, you know, they sent him out and he was involved but not fighting. I think that's why Walking Around is an interesting poem, because in a sense at the end Walking Around is complaining about that, you know, that his life he leads, that he'd rather be a fighter, but he's not. I think he's a journalist during the Civil War in Spain.
Would you say he had more anarchist sympathies?
Pardon me?
Would you say in the Civil War that he had more anarchist sympathies?
Oh, this man is an anarchist instinctively. He's an anarchist. I mean, he says it. I think he was, what side he was? He was not for the Franco forces, no. Never. As I said, he was another very good friend, is Lorca. He, in his collect many, I mean, the man wrote so many poems. There's a beautiful poem to Lorca that I wish I had read it for you. Like a glorious, glorious poem to Lorca.
I wondered if he might have run into George Orwell.
Pardon me?
I wondered if he might have run into George Orwell.
He probably met all the intellectuals of that time in Spain. They all were in Spain. Yes.
Did he ever come to the United States?
Say it again.
Did he ever come here? Did he ever come to the United States?
I think he was invited. Remember, there was a period in the United States would not let, like, leftists. They would not. Carlos Fuentes. I mean, Carlos Fuentes is an incredible writer for me. It was not allowed in the United States. They had some weird policy. Now I say weird, you know. Who knows? And probably Trump is going to do the same. But people could not come in to the United States. But I have a feeling that he did. I find it interesting that he really always praises Whitman. He liked this notion of free verse, which you find in Walking Around, this free notion of, yes.
So did he make a living with his poetry, or did he teach, or?
Yeah, I mean, this man, his poetry was sold like the Beatles songs. They were out. His books were sold. He lived well. His early years is a very poor man. But he lived by his poetry. And the statues that he had in Latin America, I mean, he is a rock star in Latin America to this day. Yes.
I mean, he obviously loved women, or several women.
I'm going to get close to you.
No, let me speak louder a bit.
Pardon me?
he obviously loved women, at least 3 very much, and I'm wondering to what extent you can say that his love for women inspired and furthered his sense of creativity, not only in poetry, but how he decorated his houses and everything else.
Yes. Well, I think that he is a passionate man, and he was in touch with the senses, and I would say so, that I'm thinking about Latin America and the early years, that your first love, the notion of love, at those early years that was kind of the remarkable thing that I said to you with my students. I couldn't get them inspired by this or turned on by this poetry. Oh my God, they would actually say that. While this poetry, a boy of 14 in Latin America would get all inspired and touched, and they would memorize his lines, and it's like the different definition of who the lover is, in a sense, Poetry in Latin America is very important. Very, very important. Poetry. A poet is a rock star. There's a saying, and I think I said that to Ryan, I don't remember the anecdote perfectly, that when you go and they talk to people about, particularly in Nicaragua has this incredible poet that I hope all of you find out, called Rubén Darío, and Rubén Darío inspired this man too. And you go visit all over, the New York Times did a whole thing about visiting the town where Rubén Darío was born, and he went around, and the reporter ran into a woman who was pregnant, and he said to her, "What are you having, a boy or a girl?" And the woman said, "A poet." Now, poeta in Spanish is singular and masculine. So if you put the article, then it's un poeta, una poeta, but it was poeta. Which I thought, yes, poetry, being a poet in Latin America is a very important distinction. Very important. And this lover boy began putting his lines, his words together, responding to the senses and to his, and by the way, in terms of, I didn't want to spend time describing to you how a poem is organized in Spanish, because it's very different from English. And there's ends in this, you drop a syllable, it ends in that, you add a syllable, then it becomes this, it's very difficult. I decided I wasn't going to do that to you, but he's a master in the structure of poetry in Spanish. He's a real master. So, yes, I think all those senses got on a woman, and then he expanded his horizon.
I have to share a personal story, because you remind me of some of my most favorite teachers. And your voice actually reminds me of Pablo Neruda's voice. Somewhere in my attic, I had a cassette tape. Right? Mm-hmm. You're all old enough to know. So, and it's a recording of Pablo Neruda. And I went to high school in Barcelona. And we were required to memorize all of that poetry. And so I memorized walking around. And
did anybody tell you why is it called walking around?
They did not tell me.
Nobody knows that.
But his voice, when he recited it, it was very Sucede que me canso de ser hombre. It was
He got how tired it was.
I don't know, it was recorded maybe when he was older, but very like moody and, you know.
He said moody poem. It's melancholy.
I didn't get into the poetry that much. I memorized it, but only because I had to. Because, you know, my boyfriend had a moped. And
That in itself is a poem. My boyfriend and
Sorry, that's very good.
You have such a feeling for it, it's really wonderful.